Yeah. I hope we are on live now.
Himanshu Veera, please confirm.
Yes, we are live, Sandeep.
Can we go ahead?
Yeah.
Yes, we can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the webinar on sustainability and wellness strategy of both. This particular webinar has been organized in the support of Johnson Controls, who is the supporter for the IGBC Performance Challenge for Greenville Environment 2021. This particular program, this interesting webinar has been part of the pre-event of the Congress, Greenville Congress, which is 2021, which is happening from 18 to 20 November on the CI Hive digital platform where everybody has joined right now. The whole program has been supported. We have the partner countries, premier supporters, performance challenge supporters, school program supporters, green design competition supporters, principal, co-principal, platinum, gold supporters, silver supporters, publications, and also many supporting associations been part supporting the Green Congress, along with many other international nations, councils been supporting the Green Congress 2021. I would like a little brief on the agenda which we are going forward. We're going to start with the opening remarks from our architect Purokeshkar, followed by a special address from Mr. Srikant Bapat, followed by three presentations, one small building technologies from Mr. Vineet Sinha, followed by digital transformation and advanced technologies in sustainability and wellness from Mr. Samit Sen. And then we have the presentation on health and well-being strategies for workplaces from Mr. S. Karthikeyan. And at 11:10, we'll be having a Q&A session. I request all the participants, we have a Q&A box which is there in the on the screen. Whenever you feel there's a question, please feel free to drop the question and our speakers would be able to answer it right away. Without further delay, let me introduce our session moderator, Architect Purokeshkar, who is an architect, environmental designer, educator, and also an author of articles, research papers, and practice of environmental design and management. She is having more than 22 years of experience on diverse projects of varying scales and complexities. Mainly importantly, I would say also leading as a co-chairperson from IGBC Pune chapter and acting involved even in the Pune Smart City going green. With that, I request Architect Purokeshkar to take forward with your opening remarks.
Thank you, Sandeep. It is a very good morning, and ladies and gentlemen, I really welcome you with a lot of energy to this session. I cordially welcome Mr. Srikant Bapat, Country General Manager and Managing Director at India Johnson Controls, Mr. Vineet Sinha, Executive Director for Open Blue Connected Enterprise Solutions, Johnson Controls, Mr. Samit Sen, Executive Director, Global Digital Solution, Asia Pacific, Johnson Controls, and Mr. S. Karthikeyan, Principal Counselor, CII, IGBC. Thank you for being with us today. The ongoing pandemic is pushing the industry to adopt a new normal. And in these unprecedented times, green and healthy buildings have become as a part of the solutions to create environment which is conscious, safer, comfortable, and of course, more efficient and really good to occupy. Adopting concepts of sustainability, health, and wellness for occupants has become the need of the hour. I'm really pleased to mention that IGBC is spearheading the green building movement in India and is working to support all its stakeholders to create short-term and long-term solutions and in preparing its projects to adopt this new normal. Today, with over 7.83 billion square feet of registered footprint, India is among the top 3 countries in the world with largest green building footprint. IGBC is also the first green building council in the world to have 29 rating systems to facilitate and address the different building typologies. This achievement was not possible only with the experts, but with all the stakeholders like you. As a next step of the green building movement in India, it is vital to understand the relationship between occupant health, well-being, and built environment. The built environment, which plays a vital role in health and well-being of the occupant, should be closely knitted with people-centric design, is what we all believe. We are really happy to inform you that IGBC has developed an exclusive rating system to address people-centric design, focusing mainly on the health and well-being of building occupants. And of course, guide facilities to be safe, healthy, comfortable, productive, and add to the overall happiness of the occupants because that is what matters finally. The guidelines include important concepts of monitoring, measuring, and maintaining good indoor environment quality. Of course, enhanced visual quality, thermal quality, olfactory comfort, acoustical comfort, and of course, ergonomic comfort with quality of water, people-centric friendly policies, and of course, a good environment and many other occupant-friendly practices. Yes, today we are really happy and with a lot of pleasure. We have a very nice lineup of experienced subject experts who are going to share some of the trending and innovative healthy building features that the industry is adopting today. Take this opportunity to express our thanks and gratitude to Johnson Controls for supporting the third edition of IGBC's Performance Challenge for Green Built Environment. We all know that buildings should keep on performing in a very efficient, healthy manner through the life cycle of the project. And that is what Johnson Controls stands for and are supporting. I would like to conclude by saying that buildings are primarily built for the benefit of its occupants. And we wish that all buildings, of course, existing as well as to be built in the future, are green certified, healthy buildings with focus on occupant health, happiness, cognitive ability development, and productivity. I'm sure this will enable the occupants of such buildings to reach their full potential by way of improving personal cognitive ability and thus giving them an advantage over others for a success in their life and enhancing their overall quality of life. Yes, so today, to enlighten us further, it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Mr. Shrikant Bapat, who's going to give the special address. Mr. Shrikant Bapat is the General Manager, India Johnson Controls. He holds a bachelor degree in electrical engineering from Sardar Patel College of Engineering and a master's in management studies from the University of Mumbai. He has over 26 years of industry experience in IT, uninterrupted power solutions, and HVAC and refrigeration businesses, gaining valuable experience in management, manufacturing operations, and product marketing. Since 2007, Shrikant has been actively involved with the IGBC and green programs where he championed green initiatives in the building technologies and solutions space. He has worked alongside the Bureau of Energy Efficiency to promote the star rating program for air conditioning in India. He is a member of the executive committee of IGBC and also a core committee member of Pune chapter. So we are colleagues here at Pune chapter and we value him for all his contributions. He really lively contributes to the discussions and deliberations that happen at the Pune chapter. So over to you, Mr. Shrikant Bapat.
Thank you. Thank you, Architect Pooja Keska. I think that was a very, very high introduction. I'll try and live up to that. So thanks. And I really am proud to be part of IGBC and the involvement the company has with IGBC. It really puts us in the right front when it comes to all the buildings that we serve, because we have the right kind of tools and technologies to measure the performance of the building, so building management solutions, and also the chillers, fire safety, and all kinds of other solutions which Johnson Controls has. And to top it all, the digital solutions that we have built over the last few years. Yeah, that also enables us totally to really watch out what's the kind of energy performance of each of these buildings. And as you all know, 40% of the energy in most countries is consumed by buildings. So it's very, very important that we start working on the energy efficiency of the buildings. And we as a company are very rightly placed to help our customers do it as we keep doing it across the world. Today, the world has become very, very sensitive to the environment because of all the disasters which have been coming up across the world, whether it's famines, floods, all the issues which are happening, temperature changes which are happening. So the world has been very, very sensitized now in terms of the sustainability and the global warming. Now that's where sustainability becomes very, very important in whatever we do, and Johnson Controls has been in the forefront of it. When it comes to the issue of comfort of the people within the buildings, India is not it's not new to we Indians of the pollution levels which happen in most cities during the winter season and started now. We already see on the TV the situation in Delhi has worsened and many cities will follow. So it's important that we start looking at not only sustainability, but people wellness also, or rather building wellness also simultaneously. And many times these two are clashing, in their priorities. If you go swing towards wellness, sustainability starts getting compromised. And when you swing towards the sustainability, maybe wellness gets compromised. Now, these are some things which we need to build a strategy. And that's why the title today is Sustainability and Wellness Strategy for Both. So every company needs to have a strategy which encompasses both and tries to bring a right kind of, I would say, mix between the two to achieve both the end results. And my colleagues, both Mr. Vinit Sinha and Samit Sen, will explain to you how we as Johnson Controls help customers to achieve those kind of goals that they have, which are extremely important for the future of the employees and the company by itself. Because when you save money, when you save energy, you save money, and that helps the company. When you create a good environment, you get good people to work with you, and that actually improves the performance of the company. So in both cases, it helps the company and helps the environment. So that's what today's seminar is all about. So without wasting any more time, I hand it over back to Sundeep to take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shrikant Bapat, for those opening remarks. And you really said something which struck me, which said that we serve buildings. And architect Louis Kahn introduced this concept of served spaces and serving spaces. And you also said that buildings primarily function because of the serving spaces who serve the spaces which need to be occupied. And you also talked about a very good kind of concept which we should all be taking ahead, which was synergy and balance between sustainability and wellness. Because till we try to find that balance, we are going to be on one side of the spectrum. So yes, really very apt start for today's discussion. And I would like to introduce our next two speakers, Mr. Vinit Sinha and Mr. Samit Sen. Mr. Vinit Sinha is the Executive Director, Open Blue Connected Enterprise Solutions, Johnson Controls. He has over 10 plus years of experience in Johnson Controls. He has helped propel digital transformation, personally leading several initiatives to create a smarter, healthier, and more sustainable buildings. He is responsible for applications that complement the businesses, building automation systems, and equipment product offerings, focusing on advancing sustainability, proactive maintenance, and improved occupant productivity across their customer enterprise. He holds several design and utility patents in the smart building domain. Prior to joining Johnson Controls, Sinha was a technology consultant managing large technology modernization programs for Fortune 100 customers in the insurance and financial services vertical. The speaker who's going to share the presentation is Mr. Samit Sen. He is the Executive Director, Global Digital Solutions, Johnson Controls. He graduated with Bachelor's in Electrical Engineering from National Institute of Technology, Surat. He has over 21 years of experience in Johnson Controls. He contributed significantly and achieved several grants and pending patents in smart building technologies. He has won 9 merit awards under sustainability, growth, process, innovations, and operations for developing new concepts such as net zero energy buildings, green hospitals, green data centers, and much more. His focus has been bringing new value to the customers through innovative solutions that increase efficiency and profitability by reducing cost, minimizing risks and failures, and improving comfort, health, and safety of buildings and its occupants, which resulted in winning 2017 Australia Innovator of the Year under HVACR Industry Leadership Awards, sponsored by Toshiba and Climate Control's News Media. So to strengthen this idea of achieving balance between sustainability and wellness, I hand over the dais to you two, sirs.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keskar. Appreciate all the introduction and lining up our presentation for today. So while Sumit brings up the slide deck, you talked through my introduction already, right? And in my current role, I have the pleasure of building out a portfolio of applications that are focused on advancing sustainability, proactive maintenance, occupant productivity, and most importantly, a healthy building experience across our customers' enterprise. Right. So Sumit and me tag team closely on deploying a lot of these applications across our customers. So with this, I would request Sumit now to walk us through the agenda and set the context for today's conversation.
Thank you, Vineet. So today's focus, first of all, really appreciate Bhuvi for this great introduction for both of us. So today's focus in the next 40 minutes between Vineet and myself, we'll be touching base on these 5 key topics. So the first one was we wanted to go and share the trends which we are seeing between wellness and sustainability. The second area is what we realized is how do we go and we as Johnson Controls as well as the global market, what we are seeing is the convergence between people, places, and planet. So we'll touch base around that. The third focus which we will put would be around the process on how we are going and managing the critical outcomes. And the fourth area where we'll put the focus would be around success in action, right? So what we realized is we will take, as what Shrikant talked about, right? We want to take real India examples of case study as well as global examples and give some perspective on how we are seeing these different enterprise customers going and applying themselves in this balance between sustainability and wellness. And finally, we will keep it open for a question and answer so that between Vineet and myself, we can take all these questions. With that, I'll get started. So currently, what we are observing is there are some mega trends today which are going and accelerating the focus around the resiliency, health, and sustainability. And this is consistent globally, which we are observing. So the first key observation which we are finding today is the focus around employee and tenant experience. So with the onset of COVID, what we are learning is that there has been some studies and stats done, right, where the Global Workplace Report has identified that 85% of the employees worldwide are functioning below their potential, right? So that's been an open-ended research done. The second area where we are seeing a lot of focus is around business productivity. So business productivity is around this new norm with the onset of COVID, which will become a norm as this hybrid co-working, right? Where corporate real estate owners are now going and focusing on how can they go leveraging technology, go and drive digital transformation programs around the spaces so that they can manage these building operations properly. And we are seeing this a lot globally. We have recently seen a lot of our customers who are going and putting a lot of focus around the space utilization and space optimization game. A year back, what we were seeing, the focus was all around social distancing and contact tracing. Now with all the vaccinations coming up in all the countries, that whole shift has been now more around the space utilization and the occupant comfort. The third focus, which has been very, very imperative now, is focus around financial imperatives, right? What we are finding is, again, with the onset of COVID, 77% of institutional investors now are now going and stopping investing in non-ESG portfolios in the next 24 months. So there is a big shift on green, on how the gray sustainability investments are done. And finally, as all countries, India being specific, there's a key focus around decarbonization by all the companies, where 23% of the global Fortune 500 companies are going and committing around the carbon neutrality goals, which is very focused around clean energy and science-based targets to achieve the 2015 Paris agreements, which everybody has gone and signed for. So with these mega trends, what we wanted to go and see is we as Johnson Controls here wanted to live with the decarbonization commitments. So today, we as Johnson Controls have sustainability has been the heart of our business since its inception, and it's fundamental to everything we do. We started this journey, if you see, around the 2003, and now today we are at 2021, and we have gone through all these different sustainability KPIs. The key ones which I want to go and put a highlight is we have gone and committed currently for a 2040 net zero commitment, very similar to the different corporations. There's a lot of focus where we are now going and setting with the help of great institutions like IGBC and this conference, where we are going and putting focus on the 2030 science-based targets, so that we are consistent with the most ambitious 1.5 IPCC scenarios. Again, what we did is we wanted to make it measurable. So we have gone and linked it to all our executive compensations, so that there is a focus in driving this top down within the company around sustainability and how we can drive and help the planet. And then last focus is, as Vineet says, right, like a lot of focus around applications and platforms. So we have gone and put a lot of focus around 75% of our R&D investments, which are done on new product development, all around the sustainable solutions. So that's been the key focus. With that, I would just hand it to Vineet so that Vineet can give some perspective on what we are seeing with the customer survey, which we have done globally. Vineet, all over to you.
Sure, Samit. So surveys that we have conducted across the globe, right, between ourselves and our partners indicate that over 90%, right, with the number almost nearing 99% of firms have established long-term goals for reducing energy consumption and carbon emissions. Close to 63% are aiming to reduce by over 50%, and about 20% of customers are aiming as much as 75% reduction. And these numbers are fairly consistent across various business verticals, such as healthcare, data centers, commercial real estate, higher education, and so on. Now, the path for achieving these goals are a mix of pure energy reduction measures and improving the use of on-site and off-site sources of renewable energy. It should not be lost that these measures are directly correlated with spend optimization, where the smart building system is designed to optimize operations, while facility management shifts their focus towards tenant experience and productivity. Moving to the next slide, right, just as expected, execution remains a challenge, right? Changing policy requirements, sourcing clean data from buildings, financing these investments are all major issues to resolve. About 60% of our customers believe that carbon emissions measurement, alone remains the biggest roadblock. Think about siloed data, multi-site discrepancies, disconnected legacy systems, or just lack of in-house expertise. And about 50% of our customers have a preference for using latest technologies from reputable solution providers like JCI as the only trusted way of addressing these challenges. Bottom line is that companies cannot seriously talk about zero carbon goals for their property portfolio without discussing the cutting edge digital technology that is essential to achieving them. Neither can leaders discuss AI that squeezes new energy efficiencies out of their big office blocks without mentioning the tons of carbon dioxide that they'll avoid emitting. So executing sustainability measures, coordinated effort, and this is where JCI is helping our customers see the overlap between sustainability and digitalization. End of the day, this needs a single pane of glass system or software that allows companies to monitor and control every aspect of their building and its operations from a single dashboard. So the big word here is convergence, right? That's the key word. Samit, next slide, please. So onset of COVID, right? Climate change, investor policies, as Shrikant was saying, right? And the need to engage with talent have definitely accelerated focus on resiliency and health. Now, the path to achieving sustainability goals has to be derived with due consideration for workplace experiences that help acquire and retain the best talent and drive customer as well as employee collaboration across in-person and virtual interactions. Now, achieving these goals and aspirations starts with making better use of data, better measurement for better management, right? Thanks to an explosion of data and the development of technology to collect and understand it, today's buildings and facilities can come alive, automatically responding to the environment, the needs of occupants and users, and in response to the ongoing imperatives of efficiency and sustainability. In short, digital and sustainability, comfort and wellness, all these strategies are converging. And our cutting edge digital solution is what helps you reach your targets faster. Samit, back to you.
Thanks, Vineet. So as Vineet talked about convergence, so the way we are going and putting the convergence is we are looking at it from three key dimensions around the focus around healthy people, which goes and powers the wellness and goes and drives high performance team, which is now becoming quite a good norm in the new hybrid co-working. The second area where we wanted to go and put this convergence was focused around how we can go and interact with the places, which are the building and the spaces. So where how we can go and put focus around the emphasis on performance of customers, buildings, and assets. So there's a whole shift around the places element from space, data-driven maintenance. And then finally, the focus around healthy planet, where we can go and drive the customer sustainability goals around and the community health all in one. So the way we are going and putting this whole in a strategy and what we will show and demonstrate today is that we are going to combine all these three key areas so that the convergence is there so that we can go and drive in helping all the different customer businesses in achieving their financial goals. So with that, I would go and share what we have gone and done is we have gone and put a healthy, sustainable building framework, which is focused around these three areas around people, places, and planet. And if you look at the people element, it's gone and broken down into focus around productivity and comfort, the personal wellness. So what we are looking is we are partnering with independent associations like IWBI to go and give us all the best practices on how we can go and drive in our products and solutions the wellness capability. Focus around clean air, and we are partnering again with some big associations like UL, IGBC's influence will all play a role. And then if you look at as we go into healthy places has an intersection between people and places. And that's where we are putting focus around the safety and the hygiene, right? Like with social distancing, contact tracing technologies with digital, giving a complete frictionless experience so that we can go without in the building with a complete touchless experience. And then the whole focus, right? What we are seeing today, we have a lot of enterprise customers, and now what we are finding, especially when we look at it from an Indian perspective, we are seeing suddenly a lot of requirements coming around driving remote operating centers across an enterprise in India, where the focus is how we can go and drive the FM productivity, how can we drive and transition from a time-based maintenance to a data-driven maintenance, and focus around the entire efficiency game, which is focused around operational efficiency, space, and asset management. And then as we go into the healthy planet part of it, there we are putting focus around all these stringent goals which each of these companies are going and doing, as well as the country is doing, the net zero commitments. So net zero commitment comes by the granular way of looking at how we can go and optimize the energy optimization. Look at the different compliances and certifications, if it's like a data center or if it's like a trading floor in a multi-level skyrise building. Focus around the waste management. And then finally comes the digitized approach about going and reporting all these sustainability reportings, because it's quite cumbersome and it needs to have a seamless way of going and gathering all this data. So we are looking at sustainability reporting and how we can go and help in new strategies which can go and help in this carbon neutrality by putting optimization strategies. So with that, what I wanted to do is I wanted to give an analysis on what we are finding today, right? I've seen buildings in India and we are seeing this even in globally. So it doesn't matter whether it's India or it's global. The consistent pattern, what we are finding is today, with most of the world being in hybrid co-working in semi-lockdown mode, we are seeing two scenarios. So in this example, what we are showing is it's a typical one floor of any of the space where the air is going and getting fed. And we have taken an example where you're seeing an occupant sitting in that space. So as a default, when buildings, we all go and design buildings. We design buildings with 10 CFM. The best practice is 15 CFM per person, right? That's how buildings are designed for the amount of ventilation which we need to bring into the building. What we are observing today is two scenarios. The first scenario is gone are the days where buildings were running on time-based schedule, right? Where we had a heat load coming in consistent 7 in the morning and finishing 7 p.m. in the evening. Now with hybrid co-working, we are getting occupants coming in buildings at different profiles. So it's more event-based approach. So with the event-based approach, what we are finding is most of the buildings, let's say I'm based out of Sydney, one of the observations I'm seeing is we are in pretty much lockdown. And one of the observation I saw is we are over pumping air. In that scenario, what we are having is we are over pumping in that space, more outside air. What the impact of that over pumping of the air, what it's doing is it's going and impacting the net zero commitments. So it's causing us a lot of high energy consumptions. The compliance is high. The net zero commitments are becoming difficult to do. But then we are having an excellent occupant health and a great operating cost type of a scenario. But the challenge what is happening is with no occupants, doesn't make any sense to go and put all that extra air which we are giving. Then we have the other scenario where we have some critical facilities, right, which are working in a semi-crammed area where what we are going and doing, and this we observed in one of the buildings in an IT park, where what we observed is most of the spaces were empty. So what they did is they took one dedicated space and told all the occupants to come into that space. So in that case, where what we were doing is we were going and pumping less amount of air, which is great again from sustain and net zero commitments, but it costs and it has a big impact in the occupant health and productivity. And it has a big impact on how we are going to optimize the cost and the asset life cycle. So what we are saying in this whole hypothesis is that today, when buildings we designed it in the past, we could go and write codes to go and do this quite properly in a seamless manner. Now with event-based approach, suddenly this impact of how we balance the energy savings with sustainability and net zero commitments, and how we can go and bring in fresh air, right? So fresh air, or I call it clean air, which is a perspective of three things. It's how we go and ventilate the outside air, how we go and put the disinfection technologies, and how we can go and bring all that air at the right quantity, right? With all those three, right filtration technology is very, very important. So that balance is very important. And that's the problem which we are trying to solve today with our digital solutions, which Vineet will go and talk about. So with that, Vineet, I'll just pass it to you.
Yeah, I love that slide, Sumit, right? And I think the most important thing it highlights is that often those decisions are made in a vacuum, right? Based on how the building was originally designed and how the control systems and sequences were originally designed, and not really, are ready to adapt to these changing environments, right? And when we talk about resiliency, right, that's really the aspect we are talking about, right? It's not about the building just being sustainable, but also being adaptive to these various unexpected scenarios. And that is where OpenBlue comes in, right? This is our complete suite of connected solutions that combines TCI's 130 plus years of building expertise with modern technology at the edge and in the cloud. delivering, as you can see in this circular graphic, right, delivering impactful sustainability, enhanced customer experiences, and respectful safety and security. OpenBlue includes solutions that can deliver outcomes that you see outside of this circle, right, including clean air, energy optimization, remote diagnostics, and many of these other use cases delivered in an agile and scalable manner. Next slide. Now, our premier flagship offering under OpenBlue is the OpenBlue Enterprise Manager. This is our single pane of glass that converges use cases spanning sustainability, smart FM operations, asset performance optimization, space optimization, occupant wellness, and business productivity. This single pane of glass is not a one-size-fits-all product. Rather, it's a digital backbone empowered by our digital twin and smart edge capabilities. Working in a streamlined manner with other OpenBlue solutions such as Location Manager and Companion that you see listed on this slide, OBEM is the integrated hub for all analytics and intelligence. Now, diving a little bit deeper into OBEM, right, I like to talk about it across 4 major pillars. Samit, next slide, please. So these would be sustainability and tenant value, operations as competitive advantage, managing space utilization and health, and secure and future-proof technology. Sustainability and tenant value, right? I mean, this is where a lot of our net zero capabilities fall into. It's not only about the base building managing its sustainability goals, but also helping tenants manage their own net zero goals, right? This is also about tenant experience, giving them the experience, the interaction with their space that they would expect in a high quality, healthy building. Second, operations as a competitive advantage, right? This is your classic smart facility management bucket, right? So asset monitoring, fault detection diagnostics, applying AI predictive models, right? Ensuring that your maintenance staff is productive as well as proactive in managing any reported issues. A lot of impact here happens around asset performance and impact on energy efficiency, hence a very, very important bucket that is addressed by Enterprise Manager. The third big bucket is space utilization and health, right? Like we said in the beginning, optimizing spaces based on the new, virtual or hybrid work scenario, ensuring that, the spaces are still clean, have the right quality of air and fresh air turns, and ensuring that it helps not only your employee wellness, but also the wellness of your visitors and customers really is all managed within this bucket, right? So the ability to take in IAQ data, right, take in BAS data, take in occupant data, and process the analytics and actionables all happens in this space. And coming to the fourth pillar, right, it is critical that retrofits and deployment of technologies like OpenBlue are not disruptive to building operations. Cybersecurity remains a primary consideration when deploying any kind of cloud and smart edge technologies. The OpenBlue stack provides the assurance of secure data exchange with the data, network security, and prevention of unauthorized access or control across all points of the solution. Now, the test of any smart building solution is in the outcomes that is achieved by our customers, right? OBEM across its thousands of installations has proven to help reduce energy spend, decrease carbon footprint, right? As you can see the numbers between 20 to 40%, reduction in maintenance spend, improve technician productivity, and improve space utilization by up to 10%. But last but not the least, right, I cannot emphasize enough on the ease of deployment and time for return on investment. A lot of enterprise digital projects fail because they took too long with insufficient actual and perceived benefits to justify ongoing investment. But in our case, with our automated toolset, pre-built analytics, and reporting and an ability to process historical as well as real-time data is ensuring that results are achieved quickly and in measurable ways. So in the next set of slides, I will walk through a real-life example of a customer looking to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and achieve net zero by 2030. Sustainability initiatives such as this will always primarily target decarbonization, a circular economy, and increased health and safety. While most digitalization programs have productivity boosts, lower costs, and enhanced operational predictability as their main goals. But render these two strategies in a Venn diagram, and you can see the commonality and where they intersect, and that's on efficiency, right? So decarbonization of operations with no negative impact on productivity will typically lead to more efficient use of electricity. Even if the company's goals are primarily economic rather than environmental, reduced power use would also be the target of any digitalization strategy. And this is not a fanciful scenario, right? In reality, for the past many years, the aim of most digital programs has been to lower cost and not really to reduce carbon footprints, which indicates that it's very important to align these strategies, right? The intended ends of sustainability and digitalization might differ, but the means and actual outcomes are often the same. Both strategies rely on cutting edge software to generate efficiency insights from real time data about power consumption. And there are various ways that digitalization can help a company beef up its sustainability credentials, extending well beyond scope 1, 2, 3 carbon emissions. So let me walk through some examples that you can see of use cases that are covered by OpenBlue Enterprise Manager in helping a customer achieve this net zero outcome by 2030. Next slide. Right. So the first one is around advanced fault detection diagnostics with energy impact, right? I spoke a bit about this earlier, right? Having a large rules library covering many assets, including HVAC, elevators, and other systems, which would typically be, your energy hogs in the building, getting ahead of their efficiencies, ensuring that we can proactively plan maintenance strategies, usage strategies, and maintenance schedules to ensure that they are operating at optimal energy use. Automating energy cost avoidance through these triggered faults and having a closed loop function around it where issues can be prioritized and addressed with due attention is the focus of this feature area. Something that's extremely popular across our customer base for Enterprise Manager. The next example is around monitoring, reporting, tracking. Next slide, please. Right. This is where, the roadmap, the business goals of the organization have to reflect in the system. In this case, right, our Energy Manager app in Enterprise Manager is collecting, analyzing, and displaying data for physical meters as well as all different assets in the building, right? The ability to baseline, benchmark, set goals, get actionable information on how to meet those goals, use predictive models are all part of this feature set, right? This is where a customer would truly be defining and measuring their performance against KPIs. And end of the day, if you don't measure, you don't improve, right? So that's the concept which this application is enabling for our customers. Moving on to the next example, right? Renewables, grid services, and offsets, right? No net zero strategy can be achieved without focus on renewables, right? So the ability to connect to solar panels on site or utility sources, renewable utility sources remotely, right, are captured by this application. And the ability to show how you're consuming, between carbon intensive sources versus renewable sources, and solving for that problem on how you shift your consumption to renewable is really what this capability is about, right? So tracking reduction in carbon, tracking impact from a cost standpoint, and essentially having data that can be tracked and audited and reported out to agencies as required is what this application is about. Moving on to the fourth example, right? This is where AI comes in a big way, right? Having operational recommendations that are not simply rule-based, right? That are not simply dependent on a preset, group of routines that might have been designed, within the BMS at some point of time. Rather, taking and sampling of data that is being actively monitored, looking at impact, looking at changing variables, looking at changes in occupancy, usage of spaces, and accordingly providing recommendations in how the building needs to be provided, right? AI embedded into regular workflows is so important and can make such a meaningful impact versus, fanciful AI that's sitting on the side and not really embedded into the day-to-day, operational processes. In a couple of minutes here, Sumit will be talking through the multi-solve, right, where we are really bringing in the aspects of sustainability and wellness to solve for both. So that way you're not trading off, you're rather, trading up, in alignment with your goals. Now, when you bring all of this together, right, and you start stacking up, right, the net impact from an energy savings is really substantial, right? Way beyond what you would have experienced in an integrated BAS environment, right? A tool, a platform, an analytics capability like this leads to much higher net savings than you would in a typical environment. And I really like to see this commercial and residential play side by side, right? A lot of smart homes around the world are using smart thermostats as an example to manage for comfort as well as energy spend, right? But now you scale that from a smart home to a complex commercial environment, and there are a lot more intricacies around, how you interplay between different systems and how you manage to those comfort constraints while meeting your sustainability and wellness goals. So with that, let me go to the next slide where we have another customer example, right? A huge customer in India and Southeast Asia, right, has close to 80 buildings, in fact, now on our platform, right, connecting to 11 different BMS platforms. And what we are seeing here really is the role that OBEM is playing for them as part of their day-to-day workflow, right? So they have automated FTD, they have energy carbon tracking. They are using real dollar figures to track the amount of savings identified and the amount of savings actually implemented and achieved. I am proud to say, right, this customer identified more than $1 million of savings 6 months into their implementation. And really, that's the kind of closed loop funnel that you need to create, for your buildings in order to keep generating investment for ongoing technology upgrades. Now, so far we have taken the FM lens to this problem, right? A facility owner, manager who's looking at all the data coming in from all different systems and is identifying opportunities for improvement and optimization. I think what we should not miss out on is the role of occupants, towards sustainability initiatives. So, Sumit, next slide, please. This is where our app OpenBlue Companion comes into the picture, right? An app that will be sitting on every occupant's phone and is driving comfort, reservation, navigation features. But the part I really like is that user feedback in the whole comfort management process, right? Looking at temperature, looking at lighting conditions. Because end of the day, if your occupants are not productive and your business is not producing output, right, none of the other initiatives matter. And hence that, from a JCI perspective, we like to take the occupant lens when looking at sustainability and wellness initiatives. Of course, goes without saying that the amount of data you collect from occupants, right? Knowledge about human traffic, occupancy, meeting room schedules, occupancy of working desks, right? Cafeterias, transportation, all that plays such a big role in how you can optimize your operations further, right? The ability to use all these conditions to actively manage temperature and lighting set points, cooling set points, heating set points, right? Make a huge impact end of the day to your goals of sustainability as well as wellness. Now, what we have done is that, all of the data coming in from Companion goes back into our Enterprise Manager Analytics platform. And that's where we build out our AI models and deploy our multi-solve solution, which I'll ask Sumit to walk us through, please.
Thanks, Vineet. So just before I go deep into this great insights which we have done today, right, where we are saying that we have built and patented our world's first indoor air quality, which does this balance of wellness and sustainability. I just wanted to give you a couple of insights. So when Vineet talked about Companion, all that data, we are very much in compliance with the GDPR, right? So it's completely we are following the privacy. And the example when Vineet talked about the big enterprise customer, which we were talking about, where we had 30 buildings in India and close to 42 buildings in Singapore. That customer has gone and committed to the shareholders in 2030. They want to go and have a reduction in their intensity by 35%. So what we now, when we go and put those sort of aggressive goals, it's very, very important. If you look in an enterprise, you have some countries in semi-lockdown, some in lockdown. So what we have gone and put focus is that there is 4 things which are very critical, right? So number one, in a typical building, as we saw that simulation, the focus around occupancy in the building. Okay, so occupancy will tell us what sort of a heat load is needed in the building. So it's a very important parameter to go and get the occupancy insights. And it can be very simple. We can, in buildings which have invested in zone CO2 sensors, that can be one way of going and pulling occupancy. Or otherwise, you can put with smart technologies the footfall of the building to get the occupancy. So that's one. The second is the footprint of the building, right? So when you have a space, it's very important to understand in that space what is there. So the zone size becomes quite important. And then the third element is focus around the weather, right? So every country, so when we are talking about a building in Singapore being in a tropical profile, it will be very much a tropical weather profile. So we need to look at it different with a building, let's say in Delhi, which has a temperate climate. So with all these different parameters coming into the system, what are the key variables which we want to control? As you saw in that simulation when I talked through, we were talking about the global best in norm buildings are designed for 15 CFM per person. But if you want to overpump outside air, then we can go to 20, which will bring us the best occupant comfort. And if you want to go and put more focus on energy, it will go and we go and reduce it, right? So what we have looked in terms of variables is, the way to do that is we need to look at variables like the ventilation rate. How can we go and control the ventilation rate? Look at the supply air which we are going and feeding in that space. So that's another key variable, is the supply air temperature. Looking at zone disinfection technology. So we are finding this a lot coming up in India, where the investment is coming on UV lights, focus on EC fans, which are highly efficient. So disinfection as well as smart fan power measurements on how we are going and applying. And then putting high filtration, right? Where now we are going in the high MERV rating in the filtration. So those are all the variables. And then finally, what we want to look at it is that we need to have a smart AI algorithm which can go and understand these 3 different conflicting outputs, right? Which is number one, how we manage the airflow, the zone airflow. Number 2 is how we can address the energy efficiency. And the last one is the focus around infection risk. So I get a lot of questions asked around infection risk. And what we have done is we have used a global norm, which is called the Wells-Riley equation. And if you look at it in the right-hand side, the way the equation works is, it doesn't go and address it into 100% the infection risk, but it looks at, based on the, in the x-axis, you can see we are looking at the clean air delivered in the space, and the right hand, and in the left-hand side, you are seeing the risk of the infection. So what we are saying is, in this curve, as we pump in more amount of clean air, we get the right amount of reduction in the infection risk scores, right? So that's the whole focus, and we'll talk about it. So we have gone and taken this Wells-Riley equation, partnered with the International Well Building Institute, and gone and put a KPI which can give an automated scoring mechanism based on our AI algorithm. So with that, in this example, what we are seeing is what we need when we need touch base in our OpenBlue Enterprise Manager, how we are doing this, right? So we may have three types of scenarios. Scenario one can be as a customer, which is, let's like a trading floor in a banking environment, right? You have a lot of occupants, non-negotiable. We need to have the occupants in the space. I treat it more like a critical environment. So in that case, we need to put more priority to the health and wellness of our employees and the people in that space. So you can clearly see in that case, what is happening. Our infection risk score is showing 86. And the reason why it's showing it is because we are pumping in more clean air in that space. And of course, when we are doing that, it comes at a cost, right? So if I'm bringing in more amount of clean air, which comes from outside air with filtration and disinfection, it comes at a high energy cost. Then in the second example, which is today the rule of thumb globally, which we are finding with all customers is with bare minimum occupancy load. And I was just looking at an Indian building with the same customer, and I observed that the chiller plant was just running at less than 10%, right? And for the 10%, it means there's no occupancy. So in that scenario, do we want to go and give that scenario one? We want to go and give a balanced approach, right? So we want to keep all our employees happy. So that you see the infection risk score is 73. Our energy balance is the right approach. And we are just bringing in the optimum amount of clean air needed for that occupancy in that space, right? So that's the smarts with our AI algorithm is going and working. And then your last scenario is an option, which we are finding today in some countries which are still in lockdown, right? Where we still want to keep the buildings with some bare minimum amount of fresh air. So we don't want to go and shut everything off, right? We want to still keep it on so that our valves and other things stroke and there's no maintenance problem. So in that case, we go and tell the AI to go and work at minimum focus on the energy efficiencies. And that's why you can see the infection, it sacrifices the infection risk score and putting all the emphasis on the energy cost, which is exactly what we want to need, what we want to do when the building is not running and there's hardly any occupants in that space. So what we did in this is, what we wanted to do is, we all talked about between Vineet and myself about the convergence of that sustainability and wellness. So what we have gone and created is, we have created a single pane of glass, which goes and gives a complete transparent visibility of this dynamic environment, right? So the dynamic environment is today that the people element of how we are doing, it gives you a scorecard, how we are going and performing in terms of the FM efficiency and the assets in the places, in terms of space utilization, it gives us a scorecard, and how we are managing the sustainability KPIs, it gives us a scorecard. So you can see this is an example screenshot of an enterprise which has buildings located in multi-locations. So there are a couple of buildings in US, a couple of buildings in our European headquarters, and a couple of buildings in our Asia headquarters. And what it's going and giving us a clear-cut snapshot is that if we want to go and concentrate about the productivity of our employees, then the poor air quality is my key top priority, and I want to put focus there. So that's one element. Focusing around hot and cold spaces, which is the focus around spaces, and then focusing around how I can go and cut the high energy usage areas, which is focused around the planet part of it. So this is one single pane of glass, which can be done it for a typical building, can be done at a city level, can be done at an enterprise level. That's how we have gone and created this in OpenBlue. So once we do this, a lot of our customers say, hey, we are very excited in this journey. We want to go and start this journey with Johnson Controls. So what we thought is we want to go and have some creative business models, right, which enables the customers who are a bit sensitive in a CapEx investment. So what I'm showing here is an example of an indoor air quality as a service. And in this example, it's very, very important that what gets measured gets done, right? So we go and establish a baseline by going and doing an independent indoor air quality assessment, or going and focusing on an energy audit. So we know what the baseline is. Then we go and put the focus in what we want to propose and commit in terms of the outcomes. So in this case, outcomes can be as what sort of IAQ matrix we want to do, how much amount of clean air delivery rate we want to bring in that space, how is the infection risk before and after, how we are going and reducing it so that our liability as a corporation is less for all our customers. Focus on the productivity and the well-being of all our employees in that space and the occupants in that space. And then finally, setting some financial targets there. So what we have done is we have a big JC Capital as a financial institution within Johnson Controls. And in case where customers don't want to go and put a CapEx investment, we can go and secure a finance opportunity on that entire life cycle of the deal through our JC Capital. And then finally, what we do is we put some skin in the game where we go and implement these solutions, right? All the open blue solutions which Vinny talked about, where we talk about implement IAQ solutions, building automation if it's a retrofit system, because we are completely agnostic. Focus around indoor air quality, which goes and takes 5 or 6 key parameters of indoor air quality, which is like CO2, VOC, and all the elements. Then put it in our open blue with our service team as a closed loop process. And then finally implement and execute those services, right? So services execution can be in our mechanical upgrades, which we are doing in a lot of buildings in Bangalore right now, in Bengaluru, focusing around the remote monitoring, focusing around calibration so that it's a single point of accountability, and then giving the focus around the facility improvement measures. So the end-to-end process in this is, that's why we are calling it indoor air quality as a service, because the focus is on how we can ensure and communicate the success over the life cycle while the loads are coming, right? So India will soon go into a opening up scenario, and we will have scenarios where occupants will come in stages, and this becomes a very important perspective on whatever we talked about, how we go and apply it. Finally, the most important part is how we go and put this focus in driving the outcomes to support the customers vertical, right? It's very, very important that we have a strategy for the key focused industries on how our enterprise have their footprint. So if we look at it from a healthcare, our focus in that case is more around the patient health outcomes, how we can go and drive the physician and the nurse productivity, focus around the patient and the family satisfaction. And the way we go and put stringent KPIs there, we go and put KPIs in that cases where we want our response time at a minus 50%. It means that we need to be quick and fast because it's a critical environment. When we look at satisfaction criteria, we put it at our highest rating, right? We call it top 5. If I go suddenly and we go into a retail environment, right? There the focus is on target marketing, merchandising, how we can ensure the communication both from a frequency and content with the consumers, how we have in-store consumer experiences. We add the security element also on that, right? How we are managing security as a service in that. Again, the whole focus there is on revenue. How can we go and push the revenue by 2 to 3%? And then how we put a focus in reducing the inventory costs, again, from a minus 25 to a minus 30%. And as we go into the commercial office, which we gave an example on the case study, which was talked about, there the focus is around the worker, their occupant productivity, focus on how we can have the effectiveness on employee retention, focus on how we can attract high-paying tenants, and then the net zero, right? So which increases that direct impact on the valuation of the property. So again, here the focus is around productivity and the carbon neutrality goals, which is a very stringent focus for us. As we move from there into education vertical, there what we are getting a lot of customers today asking about student learning outcome, learning experiences and learning outcomes, how we drive enhanced student and occupant safety, how do we have an increased sense of community. So there we are putting KPIs on graduation increase, cognitive retention. Those are the KPIs. And then finally, if we move into high-rise residential, there it's more on tenant satisfaction, comfort and safety is becoming top priority there. Attract on high-paying tenants, and then again the sense of community, right? So again, focus around rental yields, focus around the sales value going up. So finally, where I want to conclude is with all our presentations today is that there are 3 key topics which we discussed and where we see this balance is so important between sustainability and wellness. The first one is there is no trade-off. You know, we want to empower to improve the health of the business and our planet, which is now becoming an imperative in this current environment and which will stay for long. The second area is focused around how we care about the occupants, the employee and the customer well-being at the core of the JCI Sustainable Healthy Building Framework, which we talked about. And then the final one is focusing around how do we enable the activity actively, how do we manage, when Vineet was talking about the stringent sustainability goals, which we are doing in the application. So it's very, very transparent before and after and measurable. So the focus around sustainability goals and how we are demonstrating that in a verifiable way, the progress towards the target, right? So that's how we will conclude this presentation, and we are open for all question and answers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. I mean, it was really, really engaging, I would say. And I really would like to congratulate you for the patent, that you have got for the first air quality control and energy impact balancing idea that you have put forth. Very appropriately said, that nowadays we need to concentrate more on event-based than time-based ways of scheduling and managing our, resource inputs into the building. Also, I will not take a lot of time. There are a few questions, but we'll take those questions after we have Mr. Karthikeyan speak about a very robust rating system, which would, take care of the wellness and health of the people in the building, at the same time balance energy, and resource consumption in the building. So Mr. Karthikeyan is our next speaker, and he's a principal counselor at CII Sorabji Godrej Green Business Center in India. He's a mechanical engineer with master's degree in energy conservation and management, and has over 20 years of experience in industrial energy efficiency, green buildings, and eco-labeling. He's leading the facilitation and certification of green building services in CII. He has contributed significantly for developing new concepts such as net zero energy buildings, green hospital, green data centers, and of course, advancing the green building movement in the country. He is also heading the Green Pro Eco-Labeling Division in CII Godrej GBC. He has been instrumental in designing and developing the Green Pro Indian Eco-Label, which aims at facilitating green product market transformation in India. So far, more than 1,000 products from over 100 companies have achieved Green Pro Eco-Labeling. So before we go on the round of discussions, deliberations on this new concept of, Open Blue, let's welcome Mr. Karthikeyan for his presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Very good morning, everybody. I think I have, I hope my presentation is visible.
Yes.
Friends, we have been hearing from our friends from Johnson and Controls regarding how we can go about with respect to health and well-being, and how artificial intelligence also can contribute to, very closely monitoring the parameters and also enhancing the health and well-being of the occupants. We have been working on green buildings for close to about 2 decades now. As part of the green buildings, we used to talk about high performance buildings. The green building concept, or the building, the sustainability in buildings, if you look at it, is taking a different shape now. It is evolving in 2 different aspects. One is, we are going deeper with respect to resource efficiency across the globe. That is when we talk about the net zero concepts. The second is we are also talking about the healthy building concepts. The place where we live, it should contribute to the health and well-being of the people. These 2 are not 2 different aspects. These 2 need to go simultaneously. That is what we have been telling right from the beginning. It is not about sustainability or healthy buildings. It is all about sustainability and healthy buildings going together. So from the healthy building point of view, of course, IGBC has got a framework, and then we have been promoting these concepts in various typologies of the buildings. As part of this presentation, we thought of sharing our ideas and also the strategies, how buildings are implementing these strategies for enhancing the health and well-being of the occupants. Just to give us some idea, in terms of what is health and well-being as per the World Health Organization, if you look at, health is not a state of complete, is not only a physical well-being. It is also about the mental and the social well-being. It is not merely an absence of disease or infirmity. This is what the World Health Organization talks about. So when we are talking about
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Karthikeyan. Can you put on full screen?
yeah, it is already on full screen. Should I?
It is not. It is sharing the presentation one, but not on the full screen.
I think give me a minute. Is this okay now?
No, but yes.
Okay, thank you very
Fine.
much. Sorry for this interruption. Yeah. So coming back to my presentation, when we are talking about the health and well-being holistically, it is not only about the physical health. We need to address both mental as well as the social well-being of the occupants, and how the buildings and built environment are going to contribute to this. That is what we are going to discuss here. When we are talking about the physical health, what is becoming more important nowadays is both communicable as well as the non-communicable diseases. Before COVID, we used to focus more on the communicable diseases, but non-communicable diseases. But now the communicable diseases also contributing. But it has become a key aspect to be addressed as part of the building environment. So from India point of view, or globally, if you look at majority of the aspects are related to the non-communicable diseases. It could be cardiovascular disease or respiratory diseases or the cancer, diabetes. There are n number of aspects which are becoming a major issue, and our environment is contributing to this. In fact, our practices, the way we live, and also the building and built environment, all these have got a role to play as part of this. We will see how we can overcome. For an example, if you take the air pollution, which contributes for the respiratory diseases, as far as India is concerned, a large number of cities, in fact, we talk about more than 22 cities are being affected because of the air pollutions. So the air pollution need to be really addressed. The outdoor air pollution obviously contributes for, there is a significant impact on the indoor air quality as well if it has not been properly treated and then taken into the building. So there is a need for addressing this aspect. And also with the recent the pandemic situation, when we take the survey of the willingness to go out and then willingness to travel, what we understand is close to about some 80% of the people across the various age group, they are not ready to even travel. Probably the scenario is changing gradually. This study has been taken in the March 2020. Of course, now almost about a year. So now the situation is gradually changing. But what we hear from many of our stakeholders is, yes, there is a need for bringing in confidence among the people to go out and also go to work in a safe building environment, and then continue with their regular business. So there is a need for demonstrating the building the building is a healthier building. It doesn't contribute to the spread of infectious diseases, etc. So against this background, if you look at, I think my slide is getting stuck. Against this background, if you look at, this question has been repeatedly coming up. Why we need to concentrate on all these aspects? From the building point of view, traditionally we used to focus on the energy part. We used to focus on the water. We used to focus on the operational cost. But the majority of the time, we don't realize that the cost that we are spending on people is very, very significant compared to the rest of the cost. Especially in commercial buildings, if you look at, more than 90% the cost is spent on the human resources. So we can comfortably say, yes, if you start working on the healthy building concepts, probably we work with happy people, and obviously it will contribute for enhancing the business and also the productivity, etc. Okay. The way of looking at the health and well-being, especially from the Indian way of looking at health and well-being, how the building environment is contributing to this. From the green building point of view, we used to talk about 5 elements of nature. And in this case, we are going to talk about 5 senses of human. And these 5 senses are going to interact with the surroundings. And that affects our well-being component as well. Suppose if you took a look at the 5 senses, the smell, taste, sight, touch, and sound, with these senses only we are interacting with our buildings and built environment. And obviously, all these have got an impact on our physical well-being, the emotional and intellectual well-being, and also the social well-being. We will discuss all these aspects in detail in the rest of the presentation. And ultimately, these things contribute to the overall health and well-being of the occupant and enhances the quality of life. So the point is, if you start controlling the building and built environment, through your 5 senses, you are going to interact with the building and built environment, and then you are going to control your wellness, and ultimately leading to the health and well-being of the occupants. So all these aspects have been taken into consideration as part of this framework, and it addresses more of a people-centric design from the building point of view, leading to the enhanced quality of life. So when we talk about the health and well-being of the occupant, I spoke about the physical well-being, the emotional and intellectual well-being, and also the social well-being. And each one has got different elements. So broadly, we have looked at some of the elements here. For an example, if you take physical well-being, obviously it has got an impact because of the indoor air quality. And the water we are going to consume in the building, that also is contributing to the physical well-being. The comfort level we are going to maintain, and also the food what we are going to take, and the sanitation and the hygiene part. These are all all these have got a significant impact on the physical well-being of the occupant. Very similarly, the emotional well-being, we have multiple aspects in terms of the greenery we maintain in the built environment, the connectivity to the nature we have, and also the employee-friendly environment that we have. And like that, we can keep on going on with respect to the different elements. Even the social well-being, it has got, the building environment has got an impact. Now, as part of this presentation, if you look at, we just start off explaining the key features of the healthy building and how this is going to contribute to all these aspects in terms of physical, the emotional and intellectual, and also the social well-being. So the first and foremost aspect is related to the air quality. The previous presentation also we discussed a lot on this. The fresh air we are going to use as part of the air conditioning system. Many a times people think if I start using more fresh air, yes, obviously it is going to put more load on the air conditioning system, and that would result in increased energy consumption. But at the same time, we need to look at the health and well-being of the occupant. So we need to balance these two aspects. I need sufficient indoor air quality to maintain the healthy health and well-being of the occupants, and simultaneously I need to control the energy efficiency as well. 90% of our life, obviously, it is spent indoors, and a lot of researchers they have sufficiently proven that the indoor is at least about 2 to 5 times more polluted compared to the outdoor. There are many reasons for the increase in indoor air pollution. It could be because of not filtering the fresh air properly, or maybe because of the products, materials we use within the indoor environment. Because all these contribute for the VOC emissions, the formaldehyde emissions, even the heavy metals, all these need to be addressed as part of the indoor environment quality. So obviously, if you start working on enhancing the indoor air quality, it will significantly enhance the occupant comfort and also the productivity. The number what you are seeing, the increase in productivity, is not the number of IGBC. This has been proven by various studies conducted by the World GBC. There is an increase in productivity of at least about 5 to 15% depending upon the conditions. So the indoor air quality becomes very, very important aspects. There are two ways of treating it. One is, you do it mechanically. You go for electronic air cleaners or, multi-level filtrations using the MERV filters. Through that, you filter the indoor air, the outdoor air, and then let into the indoor. And there are natural ways of addressing the pollution as well. In some of the buildings, we have done this, with a lot of plantations. Through the plantations, we bring the air into the air handling unit. This reduces the air temperature, number one. It also reduces the particles that are present in the air. So it acts as a good filtering mechanism and then reduces the load on the filter. So through this, we are able to reduce the load on the air conditioning system as well. So we need to look at the innovative ways in terms of how the air quality indoor can be improved. The second aspect is related to the water. Of course, we all know water is an important aspect for the health and well-being of the occupant. Now, more than the water quality, what we are looking at is, are we taking sufficient quantity of water in the building? So the sufficient quantity of water, it is getting reduced because of the access to the water as well. So there is a need for, number one, ensuring the sufficient quantity of water available for the occupants to drink, and also the quality of water that need to be maintained. There are multiple parameters we look at in terms of the quality of water. The very important point what I would like to highlight is, especially the alkalinity of water. Many a times when we go for extensive RO process and then take the water becomes acidic, and which in turn affects the health of the human being over a period of time. So it has to be alkalinity. It has to be alkaline, and then many a times it has to be adequately consumed. Only when we get thirst, we go and take water. The thirst is not the fully reliable indicator. At the moment we get the thirst, we are already dehydrated. The dehydration can significantly affect our cognitive ability as well as our productivity ultimately. So as part of this health and well-being, what we are looking at is how we can ensure an occupant can sufficiently take water and also a good quality of water. The third aspect is related to the comfort. We are trying to address the comfort in a holistic manner. When we talk about comfort, there are multiple aspects which come in to play. Say, for an example, the first and foremost aspect is the visual comfort. We will talk about this. The second is the thermal comfort within the building, and also the acoustics, the noise levels that need to be maintained within the building. Smell, the olfactory comfort, and also the ergonomics. Many a times we get affected because of poor postures, and that lead to the back pain and also other difficulties in terms of ergonomics. So we have to address all these holistically. The last but not the least, especially for the differently abled people, how are we going to make them more comfortable within the building space? So all these need to be addressed as part of the comfort. Just to give an idea from the thermal comfort point of view, of course, if it is a mechanically ventilated building, there are multiple measures available, sophisticated control systems available for enhancing the thermal comfort. All those things have been discussed by our friends from Johnson & Control, especially in naturally ventilated building. How to go about in terms of thermal comfort, that is more important. A lot of importance has been given from the envelope measures point of view and also the cross ventilation point of view. Especially in residential buildings, these gain significant importance in maintaining the thermal comfort. Of course, we all will be talking about in terms of meeting the IGBC requirement more from the energy efficiency point of view. Please keep it in mind that also contributes for enhancing the thermal comfort. If you are able to reduce the heat gain in the building, obviously it enhances the comfort level of the occupants within the building. And from the visual comfort point of view, many of you might be knowing this concept is gaining significant importance nowadays, the circadian rhythm. from our human brain, there are two things which control our alertness, especially the melatonin as well as cortisol. The cortisol is something, especially when there is a bright daylight, the cortisol level increases and we are all very awake, alert, and obviously our productivity increases. As we go towards the evening and the night, the cortisol level comes down and the melatonin increases. The melatonin, obviously, we feel like sleepy, and that is also very important for us for our healthy lifestyle. We need at least about 7 to 8 hours of sleep in a day. So what happens is with the modern lifestyle, we reverse this mechanism. We want to have more and more cortisol in the night so that we can work in the late night as well. And that affects our health and well-being significantly. So this becomes a common phenomena in many of our 24/7 operation buildings, especially in IT and the ITES industries. So what we are promoting nowadays is in terms of addressing the daylighting as well as the lighting with the support of the circadian rhythm that need to be looked at. You can adjust the lighting levels, you can adjust the color of the lighting so that you can address the cortisol level, the melatonin level in the human being, so that you can have a healthy lifestyle. So there are multiple ways we are looking at in terms of enhancing the daylighting. Obviously, we want more and more daylighting. These are some of the buildings where we have looked at variety of strategies in terms of enhancing the daylighting. So many a times what happens is we go for extensive glazing, and then that also contributes to glaring, and that glare affects our operation style as well. You have a very good light, but at the same time you got a glaring. So the challenge here is how we are going to address the glaring. So we have gone for 2 different partitions and then start addressing the glaring as well. You get a very good daylight, and also you get the glare-free light also. The another aspect is, of course, nowadays it has become very common. You go to the doctor first, he looks at, okay, is there a problem with respect to vitamin D deficiency? And that is mainly because we are all, we are not exposed to the sunlight. So we are insisting nowadays, yes, the building should be lit with the daylight as much as possible. We should have an exposure to the sunlight so that our vitamin D level also is better, and our health and well-being is improved. There are some more aspects we talk about as part of the building, especially the healthcare buildings. The color psychology, it makes a lot of difference. There are different colors available, the cool colors which can calm our mind, which can calm, at the moment your mind is calm, your blood pressure comes down. So different coloring we are looking at in terms of the interiors to calm our mind, and depending upon the situation, depending upon the mood, you can look at different colors. Yes, this has been extensively used in the hospitals and other, even the childcare pediatric wards. This has been used extensively. In addition to this, if you look at the ergonomics, it is gaining a lot of importance. Even at the age of 30, we all get back pain, and that especially our lifestyle, the working style, it contributes to all the body ache and also the shoulder pains. All these could be addressed if you choose ergonomically designed furniture and the workstations. There are a lot of suggestions that are being looked at in terms of how we can make our workstations more friendly for the human being in terms of the ergonomics, and also contributing to the health and well-being. We need to look at in terms of obviously the accessibility and the mobility, and meeting all our functional requirement at the same time contributes for our health aspects. The ergonomically designed furnitures are being encouraged as part of these buildings. There are some more aspects related to enhancing the health and well-being of the occupants. Of course, the physical activities, they not only contribute to your physical well-being, it also contributes to the emotional and intellectual well-being, and also creates opportunity for social well-being as well. So all these features are being looked at as part of the building for enhancing the occupant health and well-being. There is a framework available. This framework has been designed with a lot of inputs from various stakeholders. The framework facilitates the buildings to incorporate all these design aspects in terms of safety, hygiene, the contamination control, etc., enhancing the overall indoor environment quality. It also reduces the communicable and non-communicable diseases, especially from the COVID point of view. It gains a lot of importance. It enhances the productivity, and obviously a stress-free environment enhances the health and well-being of all the occupants. Friends, the point of what we are trying to highlight here is, I spoke about how we look at a building more from the performance point of view. Now we need to look at the building, how it is focused towards the occupants, because focusing on these aspects also make a lot of business sense for us. You would be able to reduce the cost related to the medical aspects, as well as enhance the productivity that contributes for improving our business as well. The beauty of this framework is it has been looked at more from Indian point of view. It has not been looked at only from the anatomy point of view. It's a holistic measure. It looks at in terms of not only implementing the key strategies, it also helps you in terms of monitoring and maintaining over a period of time. Obviously, it enhances the health and well-being of the occupants. With this, friends, I would like to stop here. Yes, health and well-being and sustainability; these two need to be looked at as a parallel forces for addressing the buildings and built environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Karthikeyan. As usual, you have put everything in perspective in terms of making a point that everything is connected to each other, and you have to deal with all the aspects for you to deliver wellness in a building. Not only the performance, but the people matter. So it was such a wonderful session where, we started with the importance of, how do you give a good quality air by way of using artificial intelligence, and then moved on to the holistic understanding of delivering wellness in a building. So we have a few very interesting questions for our panel and expert speakers here, and we may take a few. There are many, but we may take one or two which can be answered by the experts. First and foremost, this interesting, kind of an interaction where Johnson Control came up with a framework for, three-pronged framework for people, places, and planet, which was a very new way of looking at things. And it was very interesting to understand how everything was interwoven in terms of delivering good air, at the same time achieving energy efficiency. So a question for you, sir. What is the role of artificial intelligence in enhancing wellness, and what are the benefits? I think some of them you have already said, but it will be great to go dive deeper into the role of artificial intelligence.
Sure. So I'll take this question. It's Vineet. I think the key role that AI plays here is that it is not it is not shackled by established equations and relationships, right? It has the ability to look at dynamic data, changing parameters, build those interrelationships, and accordingly predict what's going to happen in the building, right? That's a very different paradigm than the typical reactive nature that we have always experienced in our spaces, right, for the past several years. So now when you look at solving things with AI, right, you can obviously set its goals and set out the actionable insights it can provide for you, but also modify and update those goals on a more dynamic basis. So that way, as a building operator, if you are chartered to end of the day save money, right, then you should be able to solve for it. If you are chartered to meet certain, hit certain net zero goals, you should be able to solve for it. And so is the case with wellness and productivity factors. So we see AI as, playing a key role embedded into these workflows and systems in helping customers meet their objectives, as well as, go after several certifications that will, continue to build out in the industry.
Yeah, very well said. It is the dynamic aspects because of the new normal that one has to deal with. And I think AI really, as you said, helps us think in a very agile manner, adapting to the inputs that are given by the various parameters in the building, like occupants, like the energy consumption values, and so on and so forth. There's a very interesting question here. Like we measure energy, water through meters, can you give us examples of futuristic elements to monitor the wellness impact in terms of air quality, oxygen levels, CO2 levels, and how it can be implemented in an apartment dwelling unit and office level? Quite a huge question for you to answer, I believe.
Is this question addressed to whom?
I think it will be addressed more over to Johnson Controls because they are talking about air quality.
Yes,
yeah. So maybe one way, let me just share. I just wanted to give one perspective. It's a very good question, right? And the way we are looking at this is what we call is, this is an equation which we call the Wells-Riley equation, right? And today, if you look, this is an independent focus where we're looking at how we can put emphasis on managing this balance between risk of infection and clean air delivery. Of course, you have ASHRAE standards, you have filtration. The way we are looking at it is this is how it works, So the equation looks at the infection based on the factors which increase the risk, which is sick people, the infection particles, breathing rate, time and space. And then it looks at all three of us talked today, right? Like with the concepts of filtration, disinfection, outdoor air. So the way what we are trying to help the industry is we have gone and taken this equation and we have automated it into a scoring mechanism so that we can give, like in terms of energy, the industry is so mature today, right? We can calculate energy usage intensity. We are taking this as one way of going and giving infection risk scores, right? And that's how we are thinking at the moment to solve this problem of giving some transparency through data sets to give that visibility. Vineet, if you want to add something, please.
Yeah, I'll just add, right? I think, the concept of sensors installed on a wall will exist, right? But I think that the addition here is people being as sensors, right? Either with smart gadgets or devices that are connected, or by providing, manual input, from a feedback standpoint, right? Samit, you were talking about that sustainable, healthy buildings dashboard earlier, right? The concept of having some of those factors validated by occupants in the building, am I feeling productive, right? Do I think I have, clean air to breathe, right? Do I experience wellness practices in the building? End of the day, there is no better validation of those practices, than the people that they're, designed and implemented for.
May I add, sir? From IGBC point of view, what we have done is, there's no continuous monitoring we have, but we have done sample studies with the support of Harvard Chan School. There are about 15 of our staff members chosen for this study. And then each one of them are given with a Fitbit and also a software in their mobile. And the monitoring tools in terms of the CO2 monitoring, the VOC levels, all those things. At the moment you come to your office, the CO2 levels, the VOCs, the temperature, the relative humidity, all these measurements are being captured. And simultaneously, the Fitbit tells him, okay, what is your, how many steps you have taken? Did you do any exercise? Did you sleep well the previous night? So broadly, your pulse rate, all those things have been captured in terms of the physical health. And that gentleman gets a set of questions in the morning. He has to answer those questions in his mobile. So when he answers, there are some questions to test his cognitive ability as well. So this exercise has been conducted for about close to 3 months together in terms of monitoring the indoor environment quality, the physical health of the individual, and also his cognitive ability, when he comes to office and different intervals. And this has been correlated. Of course, Harvard Chan School they have got their own parameters, and we have got our own parameters. Based on our analysis, if you are able to address the indoor environment quality, the cognitive ability of these employees are much better. They are able to answer the questions well, they are able to relate it better. So obviously, if the cognitive ability is better, their productivity is expected to be better. That is the way the conclusions have been done.
Yeah.
Wow, that is quite an research which is happening at IGBC, and I'm really always, intrigued by the way IGBC takes up the lead to, invest their time, energy in doing valid research, which is going to be useful for the future. So great insight into this research, Karthikeyan sir. There is someone who says that Mr. Karthikeyan, your presentation was insightful and points are very practical. It is indeed very important to focus on utilizing natural elements and aspects. So would you want to, expand it further as to how natural elements, use of natural elements can really help improve the indoor environment quality? You have already talked about daylight and the natural greens outside for filtration of air, but any more ideas that have been already implemented in a few of the buildings which have got rated?
Yeah. Obviously, from IGBC point of view, we are more towards the natural elements, how we can integrate these natural elements with the buildings and built environment. This has been demonstrated already in many of these green buildings. Of course, when you combine these natural elements supported by the technology, you would be able to control it better. You would be able to enhance this better. I have already highlighted some aspects as part of my presentation in terms of how we can improve the indoor environment quality with the support of plants. For an example, I talked about having a plantation and then sucking the fresh air through the plantation so that the particulate matters can be reduced, and also the temperature of inlet air can be reduced. There are recommendations on variety of indoor plants that can be used within the building so that you can reduce even the VOC levels. There are certain plants called mother-in-law tank and other plants available. Those helps for reducing the VOC levels within the building. There are certain technologies we have combined with this. These would help in circulating the air within the building also, along with the support of the plant. This enhances, obviously, the oxygen level, reduces the CO2 levels. So like that, there are combinations available. We can work on this. Of course, ultimately, we have to combine the nature with the technology for enhancing the performance of the building, the health and well-being of the occupants as well.
There is also one more message to the Johnson Control team, which says very impressive presentation. And I think it's the same person who has asked the first question: what is the capital and operating cost for a 30-storied, 10,000 square feet per floor building? So it's quite a, you want to take this up?
Yeah, it will be hard to articulate precise costs for this, right? And it depends a lot on the vertical, the usage of the space. And like Mr. Karthikeyan had on one of his slides, right? I mean, energy is a small portion of the cost, and then depending on people and usage, right, a lot of those elements add up, right? We have seen a lot of popular models in the industry, right? Be it the 330, 300 model that JLL made very popular, or the 1990 model that, IWBI has been talking about, right? So it's really a question of relative costs, right? I think what becomes more important is, where do you want to baseline, right? What are the target opportunities to save depending on current usage and utility spend of the company? Samit, you want to add?
Yeah, so Vineet, you're right? And I just thought to give some perspective from an Australia lens, right? So here we have a program which is called Neighbors, and they are like IGBC, they have a reverse calculator. So I was just doing for roughly a 300,000 square feet building in terms of an energy spend for a premium commercial space, you are looking at roughly 2.6 million kilowatt hour per annum, right? So then if I take Vineet's model of 330, 300, you can do the maths, right? So that's one way of looking at it, but it has multi dimensions. It needs to be focused on verticals. One area where we put focus is the number of hours where the building is running. That's also very important. You know, healthcare would be different versus a commercial space. And then looking at it from base building fit out and tenancy fit outs, right? Because the moment tenancy comes, you need to look at the number of computers in the space which are on. So it has all that elements to come and look into, you know.
Yeah, so great. We had a great discussion today, and starting with new concepts, use of technology, to really address the new issues and tackle the new normal, the blue ocean enterprise which JCI presented, and the new framework which I was really intrigued with, the people, places, and profit, or rather people, places, and what was the last P?
Planet.
The planet, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so these new thoughts, kind of energize the entire discussion. And then we have Mr. Karthikeyan talk about the holistic aspects of wellness. And really, it was very engaging. I would take this opportunity to thank Mr. Sandeep, who started this entire program today and handed it over to me. Further, great appreciation to Mr. Shrikant Bapat for always collaborating with IGBC, and appreciate Mr. Sandeep and Mr. Vineet's very energetic presentation, and finally Mr. Karthikeyan's talk on how different aspects contribute to the wellness, and it's not only the physical aspects, it's also the intangible aspects which contribute to the wellness of the entire people and occupants in the building. So with that, I think we will okay. Before we close, I think there is one question which I think we can take up, and then maybe just close the session. But I think it is a good question. So, sir, in terms of cost analysis, what will be the difference between conventional system and automated system? And can you say the expected payback period for automated systems, both in commercial and residential? So, this question is by Ms. Aisha Seda. So if you can really take this up, because it's a very nice question which talks about comparison of conventional systems versus automated systems. And then maybe we can close today's discussion. Last question.
Yeah, and maybe Puri, what we can do is, right, I see a question just before that, which actually is a follow-up to the next question, right? What is the role of automation? Still few takers, does that require more awareness? So I just thought we'll take both and give some perspective, right? So today, globally, when we have gone and connected close to 2,000 buildings, right? And that's between different regions in APAC and Europe and US, there is one consistent pattern which we are observing, which follows up with that part of automation. What we are finding is buildings are not commissioned to the best way, right? So there are two things, right? We all talk about AI, data analytics, but it comes to fundamentals, right? The fundamentals is today what gets measured gets done through analytics and AI. If the right data points at the design part of the building, right? Let's say if we are going and doing a central plant for a building which is running through a central air conditioning, and if the key elements of what we measure is in terms of a central plant, we call it kilowatt per ton or system COP. If there is no mechanism of going and having the right data points, which go and calculate the thermal load, we can't do anything, right? So I call it the fundamental says, like it's like it's like a t-shirt size concept, right? We need to start with a bare minimum before you go and put a lot of investment, right? The bare minimum would be is look at a brownfield building. If you want to go and look at your air and water efficiency with your occupants, look at what is the bare minimum needed in terms of sensorization. Very, very important. then is that sensorization today going and well calibrated and working, right? We see a lot of buildings today where the sensor is there, but the sensors are not reading right. So it's like junk in, junk out when you take it into a digital journey. So the sensor value of how it's reading is important. The third element is how you're going and you have gone and commissioned the control loops of that sensor, right? If the building is not well commissioned, then let's say the sensor is going and driving the staging of a chiller plant. If the sensor is wrong, the controls will run wrong. The fourth is very important. The fourth one, which I call it, is it's called the concept of system of system. It's like convergence of a building, right? Everything is interrelated. So when you want to go and look at your minimum sensorization, you need to look at it holistically from your people, places, and planet. It means that looking at it from your occupants, looking at it from your air and water to go and drive that outcome. If let's say the minimum, that interrelated efficiency is not looked at, and we just look at silo efficiencies that go and want to optimize just the water and not the whole building, you will not get your output, right? So when I talk about automation, it's going into these 4 key stages before the 5th stage is driving the outcomes, right? So the fundamentals is get the right minimum sensorization needed. And we have done some statistics. What should be minimum for any commercial or any of the vertical buildings. And I think that will follow up in the payback and all that questions, right? Because that's the fundamentals of what we are observing today, right? We have struggled sometimes in what we have a banking client today, which is in 13 countries in close to 600 locations in our Asia Pacific region. And what I'm finding there is that the minimum sensorization is what we are finding, which is missing, right? So we can't go and drive the sustainability goals if that's not there.
You're on mute, Apu.
Oh, yeah. So you would like to add something?
Yeah, I'll just add, I think, I mean, end of the day, bad data, bad insights, bad actions, right? So, one is missing sensors. Second is just calibration of sensors and quality of data coming in. We have seen that as one of the biggest roadblocks in customer success, right? So, in fact, one of the most recent initiatives is just focusing a lot on that upfront validation and audit and digital readiness, essentially, of the building, right? Until we cross that hill, right, it's very hard to see, measurable outcomes, right? And that's why a lot of these projects are not successful, right? So that's what we recommend back to our customers. And really, the conversation today, from my global lens, is moving from automation to autonomous, right? How do we drive action if we truly are talking about technology being available to drive buildings in an optimal way? How do we do it end to end versus simply automating a few discrete actions and not achieving those end outcomes, right? So it's a very interesting, maturity step, I would say, for the industry. Of course, every country is at a different level of maturity, right? But end of the day, if we can align economic goals, business goals, and these kind of, transition, sustainability and operational goals, that's where, the trifecta will come together.
Mm-hmm. So actually the readiness of the building is very, very important if you want to go take the next step. Yeah, so I would now request Mr. Karthikeyan to take over and conclude.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for very nicely, moderating the whole session. Let me also thank Johnson Controls, Mr. Srikanth Pompa to for delivering his special address as part of this event. And also Mr. Samit Sen as well as Mr. Vinit Sinha. They are all from different time zones. If I remember right, I think Mr. Vinit Sinha, for you it is a midnight, isn't it?
Yeah, about 1:30 in the morning.
About 1:30 from USA is taking the call. Thanks a lot for coming, sir, and making the presentation to the Indian audience. So let me also thank Johnson Control for their support for the Green Building Congress. With all this, let us formally close this session. The next webinar is on 20th. So this is for the participants who are interested, eagerly looking at these type of webinars. We have The next webinar on the digital, decentralized, and distributed energy for smart buildings of future. This will be conducted with the support of Reliance. So we have this program on 22nd October. So I would request all the participants to join on the next webinar. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
So with this, we formally close this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.